Hey, we are going live on YouTube. What's going on, folks? Today, I want to talk about how to find breakout stocks early and go over a strategy that I use weekly to find these particular trades. Let me pull up
We are going live on YouTube.
What's going on? I want to pull up the chat, so I always keep that on the side just in case you all have any questions. Drop them in the chat for me. But let me share my screen really quick with Barchart. Let's see here, share. Boom. All right, we got a bar chart here. All right, let me pull some of this stuff to the side. Okay, so like I said, I want to show you a strategy that I use to find particular stocks that could be breaking out. A lot of people may miss moves. Maybe you come after the candle. I want to show you how to find these stocks that could potentially be making moves before they happen, especially around earnings. And that's one thing I want to pay attention to today is earnings. All right, so I'm working on a video right now for bar chart on earnings. So I wanted to show you all this tool as we're in earnings season. Okay. So with this calendar here, you can come in here and literally any particular dates you're looking for, you can change the date and pull that up. But this will allow us to see what earnings are coming up. But that's if you're looking for a particular day, right? If you're looking, maybe you want to scan each day and see what's trading. Now, one of the ways that I like to use is the earnings within 7 days. So you can kind of prepare for what's going to be moving the market this week. Now with the earnings, you can do this within a certain range of days as well. So if you want, 2 days, 7 days, 30 days, the next month, right? You can change this as well. So let's say the next 14 days, so we can cover the next 2 weeks. And then in this case, I want to see what's got the highest volume, who's getting traded the most right now. So let's see what names we got in here. All right. Wow, we got a lot of people trading Big Bear, AI, Palantir, Lucid, Plug. A lot of Apple's coming up on the first. You also have Amazon. So these are some great ways to figure out what's going to be moving that week, right? And you can see the highest volume is in Weight Watchers. Now, I'm not particularly going to be trading Weight Watchers, but maybe a name that I might like, Amazon, Apple, something like that. But if I want to take a look at the charts, I can pull them up right here with flip charts. Okay, so if I'm looking for a particular trade setup, so you can see Weight Watchers is down, but there's a lot of volume moving in right here. So there's a lot of volume as it's trading lower. Now, I like to focus on the daily chart. So when you're looking at these or anytime I'm going over these videos, they're always going to be on the daily because I like to see the big picture. Okay. Now, you can change the settings. Maybe you like different candles. You can also add different templates. You can create your own, or you can add bar chart templates here. So if you want to use RSI and moving averages, you can do that. Actually, I'll show you this for the sake of this exercise here. Okay, so a lot of people always ask me, when's the best time to buy or sell assets? I got that question this morning. And one of my favorite indicators is RSI, Relative Strength Index. And that's something that you can have here on bar chart. If you just go here to indicators and type in relative strength indicator or strength index, excuse me, you'll find that right here and you can add it. But like I said, they also have it on these templates that they create here. Okay, so one of the things I like to see is if I want to be bullish, if I want to be a buyer, I do want to be on the lower end of this. Okay, so this is what they call oversold. So when this goes red, it's oversold. Okay, now if I'm a seller and I want to be bearish, I want this to be on the top side of this, right? Now, in some cases, these things can ride higher. Like let's look at BBAI. So you can see that sometimes it can stay up here for quite some time and it can keep pressing higher, right? But let's say you're trading options. If you have enough time and you're not trading, say, like weekly contracts, you can sort of ride this wave to catch this sort of return to the mean, right? This is like something being overheated and this is being cooling off, right? So let's look at some names you might know. Apple, right? So you can see here that Apple dipped into this oversold area on the RSI and completely bounced back out of here. Now, what's interesting, if we bring this range that I charted back there, you can see that this gap from the past, oh, wow, it closed a gap from the past. Okay, so while we're on gaps, I want to show you all, if you stay tuned, I'll show you all a strategy I use for gaps as well, because this is something that shows you if you ever want to know where something's going, always look left, right? This was a gap that he created back in April 2024, and it took 1 year to come back and close it, right? So don't ever chase stocks. We want to get them when they're in a position where we have more of some upside advantage or profit margins for us, okay? So if you want to be bearish, look for this, right? If you want to be bullish, look for this. Okay, it's as simple as that. Let's look at Amazon. It's coming up for earnings as well. Same thing here. You can see anytime it dipped down into this oversold territory, it reversed out of here. So if you're looking for sort of reversal trades, you definitely want to use the RSI to your advantage. It just takes a little bit of time, and then all of a sudden it's going to return to the mean, right? So that's one way that I like to find trades using this earnings, okay? Now you can set different criteria here. So if you want to look at technicals or anything like that, you can, you can change it to anything really. You can even look at the mini chart view here if you want to pull up the charts and look at all these charts simultaneously. And let's say you can change the candles, you can change the time frame that you want to look at. Hey, like, all right, these stocks are falling down and they have earnings coming up and they have large amounts of volume. So you can look for whatever type of setup you're looking for, as well as you can screen these. So I can use this earnings watch as a screener. Okay, so I can come in here and say, hey, I want to, screen for the next 14 days, find stocks that, let's say we'll add relative strength index 14-day. We'll add that. I also want to look at volume. Let's say, I want to look at stocks within a certain index, so you can add the index group in here. Let's see what else. Maybe price. We'll add price because I'm building a screener particularly, right? So these are going to be my filter settings that what I'll be able to see. And you can also add things like bar chart opinion, right? Let's see, opinion. We'll say overall opinion percentage, and then opinion, we'll say opinion direction, right? So we can add these particular things and then we can see the results, right? And so we'll be able to have our own little filters that we use, and whatever filters I use there, I can add them here. But let's say if I want to use one that they've already preset, like technicals, if I'm looking for what we talked about just a minute ago, relative strength index, if I want to look for oversold, right, or overbought is going to be higher, right? So these are stocks that are moving higher. So if we change this over, if you look at the charts here, these are going to be stocks that are already high. So if we look at you can see that all of these stocks are already up, right? Now, if I change this to relative strength index being lower, moving from the low end to the high, then I can see stocks that are in the dirt, right? Now, that doesn't mean these stocks are going to come back per se, but if we look at the flip charts, you can see well, let's see here. Some of these were let's see. Let me change this to the candles. That way you can see that some of these stocks are diving, right? So the lower the relative strength index is, the lower these are going to be on the chart, right? Now, if you want to filter this even more, let's say I only want to look at stocks in the S&P 500. Let's say one other thing, what would I want to add? Let's say market cap. So I can look at maybe larger companies as well, right? So I want to look at only large and mega cap. Okay. So now I want to see the biggest companies, and they only need to be in the S&P 500. So now let's say I want to look at it in terms of volume. You can see that NVIDIA is going to be at the top of this particular list with earnings coming up and the highest in volume in this particular filter that I'm looking for. Okay, does that make sense? Now I want to show you one last thing before I go. This is what I was talking about earlier. We had noticed that Apple closing a gap from the past. Let's actually pull that back up. So if we look at the flip charts here and we go over to Apple, let's put on one of my filters here or templates here. We can see that Apple closed this gap from the past that it created, okay? Now, was this something that happened around earnings? Let's take a look. Earnings create some great opportunities, I'm telling you, right? So here at earnings, Apple created a gap up and created a trend moving forward, right? So when gaps happen, they usually create a momentum going forward in that direction. So if it's a gap up, it's usually going to be bullish. But if it's a gap down, it's usually going to continue lower, right? But what happens in the future is these gaps sort of act as magnets, right? So it may create a momentum trade for you now. But in the future, there's going to be kind of a return to the mean, right? It has to sort of close this gap. And you can see here that it took 1 year for it to do that. But once it did, we see that volume picked up here and we were in an oversold territory. Now I have on here my put call ratio as well. This is another tool that I use. So I'm going to show you sort of how to dissect the trade. Okay, so let's say we're looking for gaps. All right, you can go here to gap up and gap downs to find particular trades. Maybe you're looking for a volume trade. We can see NVIDIA here had a gap. So let's pull up NVIDIA. So I can put on my template and let's say, and you can also set some of these templates as as your default as well. So if I want, I can always come here and this will be my default now. So we can see that NVIDIA created a gap here. All right. Now, in the future, it may need to close this gap, right? But for now, this gap is going to create bullish momentum, right? And maybe we're going to run into some resistance at 115 at our moving average here. But if we look at our put call open interest ratio, we can see that puts are starting to enter the market, right? So essentially bears are assuming that the higher price goes now, we're still going to deal with some volatility. But that those puts could essentially be more momentum, right? Because if price continues to, if let's say, bulls continue to push price higher, those puts are going to have to sell, right? Which could be more momentum to push us higher towards this moving average here. And plus you can see that even if we put, let's say a line right here, you can see that we've had a lot of price action around here. We've had resistance in the past. We had some support here twice and then some support here to rally higher, and then it broke through, right? Resistance in the past. So if we want to move higher, NVIDIA is going to have to break 115, right? Now, let me show you how to sort of dissect these trades a little deeper and some tools that you can use when you want to figure out, hey, when do I know when to get in or when to get out? There is a trader's cheat sheet. You can see where price rejects. You can see technical things as well, and you can see where there's support. Okay, that's going to be in the blue. Now, one of the tools I like to use, especially if you're an options trader, even if you're not an options trader, you can use gamma exposure. And this will try to tell you where price walls are, right? So we can see right here at 115, there's a price wall. We saw that on the chart, but we can also see it in how option traders are moving, right? So right here at 115, if price wants to move higher, it's going to have to move past 115 and the next wall at 120. Right? And if you want to look where support is, well, we're above 110, right? So if price moves backwards, we're going to look at 110 to be sort of that wall of strength. Okay. So using gamma exposure there, and like I said, put to call ratio, this is a great way to kind of see what are options traders trading, right? Because we can see if we only look at the volume, we can see that the volume is starting to move more into calls, right? Because it's dropping lower. Now, if we look at the open interest, we can see that puts are starting to, sort of build positions, right? They're thinking this bear market or this sort of bearish momentum from tariffs and everything is not over. So they want to come back into these trades. So pay attention to these things because they can definitely give you insight into how things are going to be moving. Okay. Now I want to make sure I don't have any questions. If you do, make sure you drop them in the chat. All right. And I think that's it, man. I don't want to hold you all too long, but this is essentially how I find trades for the week. Let's say you want to also look at pre and post market. You can find that here. So if you're looking for the most active, this is a great way. This is kind of how I found quantum stocks. There was a lot of times the pre-market volume will be extremely high on these things, right? Also, if you look at the average volume as well, you want to look at that in comparison to like, hey, if the average volume is this, but the pre-market's that, maybe that's looking a little too weak, right? But if we have high, like if it was low in the past, but then there's a spike, it's like, what's going on here? right? So it allows you to, and then you can see here with earnings, this company has earnings coming up in May. And then they've, like I said, the average volume is usually low, but there's a lot of people trading it now. So you can find sort of these hidden gems based on volume. Now, all of these aren't going to be winners, but you can see where the action is. Okay. Now, another thing that I like to use is the gaps. Okay. Because this is going to tell me what type of momentum is going to be moving. Because like I said, these are stocks that are already on the move, right? So they're in the pre-market and they're gapping up, which could mean that they could continue this momentum into the day. Okay. So these are some great ways to find trades as well. Like I said, I usually do like to focus on volume. Volume is a great indicator. Plus you can use the technicals. Maybe you're looking for something on a reversal. You can look at the relative strength index. Okay, so I hope that helped. If you all have any questions, drop them in the comments. But I wanted to give you all a way to find stocks. And then also you can set up alerts for these stocks. So let's say I like gap downs. Maybe I like what I see here. Boom, boom, boom. Got some gaps here, and I want to screen them for what I want particularly. But you can use gaps as a screener, right? And then you can add in different types of volume, relative strength index, market cap, open interest, whatever you're looking for in particular. And then you can come in here and say, hey, save this and send me some alerts. Okay. And they'll email you alerts for whatever your screener is. So whatever you set these filter to, they'll send you an alert. And if you want access to Barchart's options data, make sure you go click the link in the bio. I'll also drop a link in the description where you can get a 30-day free trial on the options flow data. All right. So a lot of these tools are free. And this is a great way for you to find out where you could be looking for opportunities coming up that week. So make sure you all use the earnings calendar and also the earnings upcoming in the next 7 days to set a filter to find out what's coming up that coming week. All right. Hope this helps. If y'all have any questions, drop them in the comments. But that is it for today.